What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Cage My IQ. We are back after a 2 week layoff of UFC. Yep, you heard it. We didn't have any events last week. The week before, of course, was the UFC pay per view where Leon Edwards shocked the world with that fifth round leg kick KO of Kamaru Usman with 1 minute left to take the welterweight championship from Usman. But I'm your host, Cage, and joining with me once again, as always, is my co-host Jim. How are you doing today, Jim?
Doing good, man. Ready to break down some fights. It's been a while.
Yep, today we'll be breaking down UFC Paris, which is headlined by Ciryl Gane versus Tui Tuivasa, a top five heavyweight battle. We're going to break down this 12 fight MMA card for you. It's going to be an early Saturday one since it's in Paris, France. The start time is at noon p.m. Eastern time, and then I believe the main card will be starting at 3 o'clock. What was your thoughts on this card when it was announced? I know we've had a lot of mix-ups with the fights since a lot of people have dropped out. But what's your thoughts now of this card?
This was one of those cards that comes along, and when you're doing fight breakdowns and, tape study, you're like, damn, there's a lot of people debuting. I think half the card are UFC debuts, and I'm okay with that. It just
Yeah,
makes this card is completely unpredictable. I love the main event. I love the co-main event. Those are two great fights that I've been waiting to see. But the rest, it's very like, it could go either way. So I'm excited to talk about this one.
yeah, and of course it's in Paris, France, so it's in another country. So
Yep.
usually these fight cards they try and stack the card with a lot of their nation's fighters, and
Yeah,
we had four French fighters drop out, but then replaced with four extra ones. So it's like they're trying to showcase their talent.
yeah.
Before we get into the predictions, as always, this is the Cage My IQ podcast. You can follow and subscribe to us on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. Of course, you see right here, we're broadcasting this on YouTube. So if you haven't done so already, please smash the subscribe button down below and the notification bell. So whenever any of the new content gets put out, you guys are the first to see it. We're going to be putting this out. I got interviews with Aaron Jeffrey and Bubba Jenkins, so you can check those out. And then later in the week, I'm going to be doing a lot of wrestling live podcasts, doing prediction videos for Worlds Collide, Clash at the Castle, and for AEW's All Out. So you can check all that later in the week on the YouTube channel. And for this prediction video, please smash the like button down below and hit us up in the comments section to the right and let us know what you think of our predictions and give us your thoughts and opinions on the card and any upset alerts that you fear are going to happen with UFC Paris. But other than that, let's get breaking down with the first fight on the card for UFC Paris. We have a women's featherweight battle between Island Perez going up against Stephanie Egger in the featherweight division. We got Fiona versus Egger. Egger's taking this fight on 3 weeks' notice. She fought in the beginning of August. This is going to be her first fight at featherweight since actually both of these fighters usually fight at bantamweight. But Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is just what I was talking about in the prelude to the previews. This is an interesting one. Aline Perez is making her debut. She's a dangerous fighter, and she's a
Yeah,
finisher. She uses the Sanda fighting style, while Egger has been using her judo style to get her opponents to the ground for either the ground and pound and submission. She's taking this fight on short notice, like you said, which could be great for her because she's still in shape. She's still got that, hunger to fight because she just fought previously, but she's going up against a brawler, and Perez is a beast. And I think the biggest what
yeah,
if is in Egger's corner, having to go up against a striker like Perez. The last two fighters for Egger has been more ground submission based grapplers. So I'm going to go with Perez. I'm going to go. I don't know what the odds are on this one, but I'm going to go with Perez by the decision win. I had knockout, but Egger's pretty tough. So I'm going to go with Perez by the decision.
Yeah, for me, we got Island Perez. She has a background in grappling and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. She has good movement. She has really good cardio. She always likes to be on the move and doesn't like to be stationary. She has great submission entries, but the one thing she needs to work on is being more calculated with their striking and not as predictable with it. Then you got Stephanie Egger. We know she's a striker and grappler. Her background primarily is in judo, and of course, she is ever improving with her BJJ. She likes to mix up the leg kicks and overhand punches from a distance. She likes to tap and go, and then look for those judo throws when she closes the distance. She tends to accept bottom position a little too much, and she's more comfortable there. It tends to uh, like ruin fights for her. That's what happened against Maya Bruna Silva. She took her down, but then Silva reversed it and got the arm bar on her, and couldn't get out of it. And then she usually comes in the fights taller and more rangier, so that's something that she should use to her advantage. And of course, like we said before, she's making her debut at 145 instead of 135. So this is going to be interesting to see how she fights with the extra 10 pounds on her. I'm going to go with Perez in this one by third round submission because if you look at the 2 or 3 losses that Egger has, they're by submission. She tends to allow herself to get taken down, and then when she does, she makes a mistake, and then she gets armbarred or choked out. Either one, she's just not that good defensively on the mat. Whereas when she takes people down, she's really good. And it's like the yin and yang of things with the grappling for her. I think her best bet would be to stand and trade shots and then just fight from the distance with her reach. But I feel like she's gonna want to take Perez down, and Perez is really good with their submission defense. So I feel like she's gonna get taken down by Egger, but then she'll find a hole and choke her out with the rear naked choke. I feel like that's gonna happen. So I'm going with Eileen Perez by submission.
All right, we're on the same page with the winner. It's curious. I'm curious to see how Perez handles the 10 pounds as well. They're both going to be fighting up, so it's there's a lot there, a lot of question
Yeah,
marks, as is there
and,
is
and
with this next fight too, and the
yeah,
next one.
and before we get moving on, Perez is the plus 275 underdog. I feel like
Yeah,
that's a huge like difference in betting for that one. Even I agree that she should be the underdog, but to me, she's not a heavy underdog. I feel like it could be like 60-40. So I feel like
yeah.
maybe she should be plus 170 or 175, but not plus 275.
I think a lot of it comes down to that in a lot of these fights when we were breaking it down, like the early odds. I think it comes down to strength of schedule, despite the
Yeah,
records, right? Perez has 8 fights. Egger has 10 fights professionally.
yeah,
Egger has the strength of schedule. It's the same thing between Taha and Quinones, the next fight, and following that fight. I think the odds makers are going based off of the strength of schedule, and that could be great, but they're not paying attention to the regional scenes and like how dominant these fighters are
yeah.
walking out of their fights. So yeah, Egger's been in the UFC longer than Perez for sure. So she's going to get those padded numbers, but this fight has upset written all over it.
Yep. Let's move on to the second fight on the prelims. We got a matchup between Khalid Taha versus Christian Quinones in the bantamweight division. We got the Warrior versus Problema. Jim, what are your thoughts on this matchup? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, man, this is another really interesting matchup with Khalid Taha coming into the fight, not having won since 2019,
Yeah,
and looking to kind of bounce back and save his job, while Christian Quinones is looking to capitalize on that four-fight win streak. I have Christian Quinones winning this one. He's got the height and the reach advantage. He has the power advantage. And the only place that he struggles with is grappling, which kind of plays into Taha's hands. But I do
yeah.
see Christian keeping the fight standing and walking away with another decision win.
Yeah, for me, we got Quinones. He has a stand and bang kind of fighting style. He'll be technically sound, has good ground game, but excels at throwing combinations on his feet. He has been ever improving with his BJJ fight to fight. He needs to defend the ground game better if he wants to win. And then you got Khalid Taha. He fights with a background in Taekwondo and BJJ. He has really good knockout power. He likes to throw lower calf kicks, hooks, and looping punches. He needs to manage his gas tank better, and he needs to defend takedowns. That's been his Achilles heel in UFC. He did have the 25-second win against Boston Salmon in one of his first fights, and now Boston Salmon's in the PFL. He won that, but since then, in his past two fights, he's been taken down. I believe it's 8 or 9 times,
Yeah.
and like when the fight is standing in the first second round, he does really well. He gets off the shots, he has great movement, and then he stuns guys, but then he tends to slow down a little bit as the fight goes, and then he gets taken down. But the one thing with Quinones that I think leads me to picking Taha is the fact that he has a grappling background, but he refuses to use it majority of the time. It's only there when he needs to. He likes to stand and trade with his opponent. And I feel like that's going to be a bad idea for him to do against a guy like Taha, who at any moment can knock you out early in a fight. I feel like Quinones should be trying to get the fight to the ground and using that ground and pound that he has, where he likes to throw those elbows and stay in top guard. But I feel like he's going to try and stand up and try and make a point and try and knock out Taha. And then in return, Taha is going to knock him out because he's going to be the quicker striker. So I'm going with Khalid Taha by first round knockout.
Okay. See, the gas tank issue was the thing that led me with
Yeah,
Quinones, because he fights at altitude. So he's a conditioned fighter. So you may
yeah,
see that grappling background in the later rounds when Taha is worn down.
yeah.
We haven't really seen the Khalid Taha power
No,
in quite some time. So I don't know if it's there anymore, to be honest with you, because he's touch and go. Whereas you said that Quinones is really good with combinations. So having the reach advantage, and Khalid's going to have to get close to that. He's going to have to get
yeah,
in there to touch
he
him.
had
So he's going to
he
use.
had it he had it in the Sergey Morozov fight, but then he got taken down so many times by Morozov. You just don't remember it because he spent a lot of time on the mat.
Yeah, I don't
But
know. It's going to be a good fight.
let's move on to the third fight on the prelims. We have a men's lightweight matchup between Benoit Saint Denis versus Gabriel Miranda. We got God of War versus Fly. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
This might have to be the first three debuts in a row, right?
Yeah,
On a card that we've seen in a very long time. And then we get a fight where it's two vets and then another debut. So again, this is
yeah,
playing into the thing that I talked about in the beginning. It's another tough
yeah,
one. Both of these guys are grappling based. They've combined for 23 submission victories in their careers. And I feel like both of them are going into this fight respecting each other's grappling, which will result in the two staying standing. I don't see this one being a battle for position because they're both really good on the ground, and the ref's
yeah.
going to get tired of it and pick them up. So I'm going to go with Benoit Saint Denis on this one. I give him the edge in the striking department, and I think he's going to showcase his stand up a little bit more. Not like I'm not saying he's going to put on like 120 strikes. He might go
Yeah.
into like the 30s, but I think he's going to showcase it a little more, get the decision win.
Yeah, for me, first you got Miranda. He has a high level Brazilian Jiu Jitsu background. He's a submission specialist. He learned how to fight from watching, of course, Minotauro Nogueira, and that's how he wanted to get into the sport, was watching him live. He likes to shoot for takedowns often to set up his groundwork, and he throws overhand strikes. He likes to use elbows in the clinch and occasional leg kicks to keep his opponents guessing. He needs to add more to his striking because I feel like he's more, too one dimensional, and then he only mixes in the striking at times to set up the takedowns and the submission game. But then you got Benoit Saint Denis. He has a judo background and striking background. He has a brown belt in BJJ. He's won the majority of his fights like by submission, like you said. Even Miranda has too. He constantly applies pressure and has really good cardio, even with his grappling. He's just always on top of you, always. And then the power in his striking is very underrated. He's been able to use that at times to win by knockout, and it's been a good complement to his ground and submission game. I feel like that's the difference in this fight because these guys are similar style fighters,
Yeah.
but the difference is for me, Benoit Saint Denis has the striking, whereas I think Miranda is still trying to develop the striking. Even though I feel like Miranda might have a better ground game, I think the fight's going to stand up a lot because of that. I think that the grappling's going to negate each other majority of the time. And I got Benoit Saint Denis winning this by decision. I was floating with the idea of a third round knockout, but I feel like he's going to win just by volume.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, we were pretty much word for word on our notes.
Yeah.
And to our viewers and our listeners, we don't share notes. We don't
Yeah.
even talk about the fights until this moment. So
Yeah.
it's very ironic. Same brain sometimes.
Yeah. Let's move on to the fourth fight. On the prelim, we got a men's middleweight matchup between Nasruddin Imavov, aka the Russian sniper, versus Joaquin Buckley, aka New Monza. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
This is a great matchup. I'm surprised on how low in the card it is, to be honest with you. I thought for sure this was going to be either the first card
This
on
is a
the
main card. This is the main card fight.
exactly. This is the first
Yeah,
fight on the main card or your walk into the main card.
yeah,
So I don't know where the UFC holds these two, or maybe they're just trying to separate the debuts and be like, oh my God, another new
yeah,
fighter. Um, but I think it's a great matchup with both fighters coming in with at least two straight wins. This one, honestly, could go either way. Both have good grappling and power, but I have Joaquin Buckley winning this one. And I believe he's the underdog in this one. And I've seen a different side of Joaquin Buckley in his last few fights. We all know the Joaquin Buckley with the spinning heel kick
yeah,
on Impa. That was like the knockout of the year. We know that, but he's been more calculated. He's usually his wrestling more. I think he's averaging like 3 or 4 takedowns a fight, whereas Nasruddin has been out for more than a year, and he's getting tougher. And he has been getting a tougher opponent than his last fight with Edmund Shabazian, who was kind of just a one-trick pony, whereas Joaquin is, at this point in his career, a little more well-rounded. So I have Joaquin Buckley winning this one in the volume category, leading to another decision win. I think there's going to be a lot of decisions.
both of these guys are coming on win streaks right there.
Yeah,
Two here for Imavov against Heinisch and Sabajian, and then they got Buckley who defeated Arroyo Al Hassan, which he barely beat him in the.
yeah,
And then Albert Duraev, which I was a crazy KO that I didn't see happening.
right.
So both of them are coming in on win streaks. But with Buckley, he has that wrestling and striking background. He has knockout power. He has good speed, good movement, and he uses the wrestling to kind of uh, change things up. And then sometimes he uses his wrestling to set up his striking, and then vice versa. He's a very tricky guy, and then he throws a lot of leg kicks, which you don't expect. You just
Yeah,
hit the nail on the coffin with the spinning leg kick against Impa. It came out of nowhere. He likes to throw that kick a lot, and he was able to connect on that one. But the one thing that kills him is the fact that he tends to tire out after round two. And
yeah,
if he does a lot of work in round 1 and 2 in the volume game. Whereas you've got a guy like Nasruddin Imavov, he has a boxing BJJ background. He has crisp, sharp boxing. He can throw with either power or finesse. He has really good cardio. He's known for his footwork and head movement, so he can avoid big time shots. He's been hit in past fights, and he's learned to move his head and avoid shots. He has a really good takedown defense, and he likes to use knees and elbows in the clinch. And in his past two fights, he's put on a lot of volume, a lot of movement. He has shocked people with the wins. He has gone the distance. He's just showcased a different fighter that he was 3, 4, 5 fights ago, and that's why he is a guy on the cusp of the top 10 is because
Yeah.
of what he's done along with Buckley. And that's why I'm leaning towards Nasruddin Imavov by decision here, because I feel like he's the guy with the more volume. Like pours out more volume than Buckley. I feel like Buckley starts out high volume early, but then he dwindles. Whereas Imavov is a guy that is steadily there with the volume and the cardio. And as long as he doesn't get hit with that big time shot from Buckley, I feel like he should be the favorite to win by decision.
Yeah, he's got slightly over 50% striking defense, as does Buckley. So this
Yeah,
one, again, it's a very tough one. It could go either way, but
yeah.
I'm riding with Buckley on this one. There's something about it. It's just like this fight, I looked at it and I was like, I'm going to go Buckley.
If Buckley wins, it would probably be by first round knockout.
Yeah, first or early second. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
went with decision. I think he's going to
yeah.
fix that gas tank.
And he needs to, because that's going to be something that hinders him if he were to win this and then get into those top 10 fights there, because he's going to need that gas tank for those style fights.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to the fifth fight. On the prelims, we have a men's lightweight matchup between Bear Simon, who is back in the UFC after signing a new deal, versus Mikel Figlack. We got Smile Killer versus Mad Dog. What are your thoughts on this fight, Jim? And then who do you have winning?
This is another tough one. Ziam is well-rounded, but puts himself in bad spots. I think that's been the name of the game for him.
Yeah,
Whereas Figlak is a powerful fighter. He has a good gas tank. He's unbeaten in his professional career. I think Ziam is going to put himself in a bad spot in this one, a couple bad spots actually, and it's going to allow Figlak to capitalize and rack up some volumes. I like Figlak's style against Ziam's style, and I have Michael Figlak walking away with a second round knockout over Ferris Ziam.
yeah. You got Versailles. He's coming out with the background in judo, BJJ, and kickboxing. He has good movement and range, but he struggles to defend takedowns and has lost 3 of his last 4 fights by submission. Likes to counter strike and uses range to out volume opponents. So he's going to look to stand up and trade with his opponent rather than take the fight to the ground or grapple. Then you got Figlack, who has a background in wrestling that is elite, and then he also has a background in striking. He's constantly trying to pressure forward and use his great cardio to frustrate his opponents and then have them move backwards. He has underrated combinations, and he's hard to deal with when he is in top guard. He likes to throw those elbows to the face when he's on top of his opponents and look for him to move so he can set up a submission if it's there and open. And then he tends to grind out victories. He likes to take the fight on deep waters. He has, like I said, he has great cardio, and he could do this for days if he has to. And that's why I'm leaning with Biglack here by knockout round 3. I originally had Bear Simon because I felt like he was going to keep the fight standing and then just out volume Biglack. But now that I think about it, I feel that he's going to have a struggle with the wrestling of Big Lag. He's going to get inside of Zion, take him down several times, and then just grind out a victory. And then before it goes to the decision, I feel like he's going to finish him with the ground and pound.
Yep. I'm right there with you. I was just around that earlier.
Yeah, it's just a thing with the like he keeps getting paired up with these grapplers, and they just have their way with them. Like in 3 fights, he's been taken down 5 times, 4 times. He was taken down twice against McKinney, and then was subbed within a minute or two of that fight. Where a
Yep.
lot of people picked Zion because they thought that his striking was going to be a difference, but it's always the same thing with them. He's always getting taken down, and he struggles to get back up. He
Yeah,
has to he has to improve that takedown defense.
you're seeing that with a lot of fighters now that are traditional striking based, who
Yeah,
are really like getting matched up with a lot of grapplers. Most recently, it's Wonder Boy. He's
yeah,
been talking about how he doesn't want the Shavkat fight because he's been going up against two high level grapplers. He wanted Kevin Holland. He
yeah,
wanted I think there was somebody else on that list that he wanted, and it didn't work out. But it's just the emphasis is on mixed martial arts. You can't just be good at one thing now. You have to
yeah,
evolve. The
yeah.
name of the game.
But let's move on to the prelim main event. Before we get to the main card, we got a men's middleweight matchup between Dustin Stolfis versus Abus Magomedov. We got Dustin versus Abus. What are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Honestly, don't know why this is the main event of the prelims. You know where I
Yeah,
stand with Dustin Stoltzfus. He hasn't really impressed me, although his last fight he did. This is very similar to
yeah,
that Benoit Saint Denis fight, where they're both good on the ground, which makes me think this one's going to stay standing as well. Like I said, Stoltzfus would look good his last time out, and but he was outgunned But I think he's outgunned in this one. Um, I have him get knocked out in the third round. I have Magomedov winning by a third round knockout. He's got so much power, underrated power. Um, he's more well rounded at this point.
yeah. First, we got Dustin, who has this background in Muay Thai and BJJ. He likes to throw combinations in the Thai clinch, but he's better at throwing leg kicks and punch combinations from distance. He uses that distance to go in and out, in and out. He has trouble against grapplers, but he has a good cardio and volume count. He has showcased a more diverse fighting style with the addition of his disguised takedowns. I thought he did that very well in his last fight. Then you got Abus Magomedov, who has a background in striking, BJJ, and wrestling. He has knockout power, and he knows how to mix up his different style leg kicks with his hands. He is more dangerous on the mat, where he likes to throw elbows and punches in the clinch, and he looks for submissions. He has great cardio and great movements, and everybody knows him from PFL. He made it to the finals, I believe, in 2018 or 19, where he lost in the finals by knockout to Taylor. But before that, he showcased a lot of his a mixture of grappling and striking. He won 2 fights by knockout, and then he won one by decision against Sadabu Sai, which was a crazy fight. We see
Yep.
him; he's in the finals now this year, but he got dominated by a boost in that fight. And that's why I'm leaning with a boost Magomedov by first round knockout via ground and pound here. Because I've noticed that Dustin does well against guys who don't grapple as much, and they like to stand and trade with you. But then he struggles against, like you said, He struggles against guys who grapple, take you down, and do a lot of ground and pound. He struggles against that. Uh, he did do good against GM3 for 2 rounds, but then he got caught in a submission and he lost in the third round of that fight. And then the fights before that, he struggled against the takedown. And the boost is going to be a guy that's just going to keep pressuring him. He's going to throw those different leg kicks. He's going to use those leg kicks to get him to move backwards so he can take him down and bum rush him. And then I feel like he's going to take him down and just finish him off with those elbows. He's a bigger guy. I feel like he's rangier, and he just has a more complete style. The only thing that is going to hurt a boost is the fact that he's been inactive for a while, whereas Justin has been the more fresh guy. He's been fighting regularly. the past 2 years. That's the only thing that's going to hurt a boost, but I feel like he's just going to dominate the fight and get it out in the first round by ground and pound.
All right.
Let's move on to the first fight on the main card. We have a men's featherweight matchup between Charles Air Jourdain, who's going up against Nathaniel the Prospect Wood. What are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
First, I love this matchup, and I love that they're staying active. They just fought a month ago, which is
Yeah.
a testament to both of these guys, um, drive to get to the next level. This one's really interesting given their last fights. Jourdain held his own against Burgos, who is a very different style than Wood, while Wood walked away with the win over Rosa but took in some damage. Jourdain has more power than Rosa, in my opinion, which could pose a threat to Wood because he was getting touched up in that fight. Wood would benefit from taking this fight to the ground and working in ground and pound to keep
Yes.
Jourdain's volume down. But I feel this fight's going to stay standing, and Jourdain is going to put in more volume as he does in a lot of his fights, and he's going to rack up more damage, leading to a decision win by Charles Air Jourdain.
This is going to be a tough one because this is one of the first fights where Charles Jourdain actually isn't at a reach advantage
Right.
in his fight, because usually he comes in with a small reach. They got exactly the same, same reach, and he's the taller fighter here, and he likes to throw a lot of leg kicks, a lot of striking, and more of like a counter style. He's shown pretty good defense with his striking, and he has good cardio. But then on the other side, you got Wood, who has great striking. He has that boxing background. He pours in a lot of volume. Like we saw Jourdain pour a lot of volume, but I feel like Wood is a better striker than Jourdain is with the volume and the striking. But he mixes in leg kicks, whereas Wood, it's a lot of just his hands.
Yeah.
But with Wood, just like you said, he has that ability to clinch up and throw in the clinch or possibly take the fight to the ground. And I think that's going to be a big deal if he wants to win here. And this was probably one of the toughest fights on the card for me because I feel like it could go either way depending on how the fight goes. If they're just
I agree.
standing and training, I feel like Jourdain could win, but they clinch up. I feel like Wood would have the chance to win. And I think the fight goes to decision, and I'm going to lean towards Nathaniel Wood here. I feel like he's going to be the quicker guy, and it's going to be a close one. It's going to come down to the judges, and I feel like it might be 29-28 him, 29-28 Jourdain, and then the last one will go 29-28 Wood for a split decision. I feel like it's
Okay.
that close of a fight where it could happen, and it all depends on if he can clinch up along the cage or get the fight to the ground.
Yeah, and there's options to get that fight to the ground
Yeah,
because Jourdain throws a lot of spinning and jumping attacks. So there could be a chance for Nathaniel Wood to just counter a spin or a jump with a
yeah,
takedown.
and try and catch the leg, and then just pull
Yep.
him down. Yeah. Let's move on to the next fight on the main card. We have a men's featherweight matchup between William Gomes versus Jarno Aarons. What's your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning? We got the Jaguar versus Jarno.
There's a lot of unknowns in this fight because both of these fighters are making their debut. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
with Gomes in this one. I think he's gonna play to the hometown crowd, being from Paris. He's got more tools at this point in his career, while Aaron's has a good ground game and is adorable. But I feel that Gomes or Gomez, however you pronounce it,
yeah,
his power is going to be too much for Aaron's, and it's going to lead to William Gomes winning by second round KO.
yeah. And first, you got Gomes, who has a background in striking and BJJ. He's primarily a striker who loads the blitz forward or off his back foot. He uses his wrestling to keep his opponents guessing at times, but only here and there. He lands a ton of leg kicks and mixes in strikes with them. He likes to use the leg kicks to the head, body, and the shin. He always keeps his opponents guessing on where he's going to attack, and he's very quick with his movement. Then you got Jarno Aarons. He's a striker with a background in BJJ, he likes to primarily throw straight punches and uses lower calf kicks and body kicks to maintain his range. He can close distance pretty quickly, but puts himself at harm's way at times by not setting up those attacks very well. He has good volume and a good mixture of tools, but he isn't the fastest or the strongest. His path to victory will more than likely be with his technique. This one is very tough, like you said, because it's two new fighters coming in against each other, which is pretty unique with having them debut on the main card. The one big thing will be what William Gomi shows up, because in past fights he's been able to blitz and he's just dominated his opponents. And then there's fights where he sits back along the cage and looks to just throw that one singular punch,
Yeah.
and then he winds up losing because he doesn't do enough. And he just sits there looking for that highlight knockout. And that's going to be the difference in how this fight goes. Because if he tries to sit back and do that, he's just going to get beat up by Jarno Aarons with the volume game. But if he looks to blitz and be aggressive in this fight, I feel like he's going to win. I'm going to go with Gomes by second round knockout here. I feel like he's going to be more aggressive. He's going to land a lot of shots early, might even take him down once. And I feel like he gets it done on the ground via ground and pound.
All right. We're right there, man. Another knockout.
Yeah, this is a guy that could have a very good future in the UFC. He's a high prospect coming out of France. He has all the tools. He just needs to bring it consistently in each fight that he fights and not take fights off thinking that he can just stand there and one punch knock out somebody.
Right, right. And he comes from a good gym.
Yeah,
Believe he goes to the same gym as Ciryl Gane.
yeah. Let's move on to the next fight on the main card. We got a men's lightweight matchup between Nasrat Hakparas versus John the Bull Makdessi. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you got winning?
Yeah, this is another really good matchup. Statistically, these two match up really well. Both can pour in the volume, and neither are likely to take you to the ground a ton of times. The
Yeah,
thing that sticks out to me is that Nasrat's last few opponents he's got a better strength of schedule. He's faced
yeah,
top 15 fighters his last two fights and showed two different versions of himself. During his fight with Bobby Green, he was more aggressive and threw more, while his fight with Dan Hooker, who is a more traditionally stand-up fighter, he was taken down a few times, which was a
yeah,
little shocking at that moment. He's going to need to be the more aggressive version of himself in this fight, or he's going to let Makdessi walk away with the win, as he sometimes does. I have Nasrat winning this one, but this one feels like a split for me. This is
yeah.
kind of goes back to the one that you had that was a split. Makdessi keeps himself in every fight, so this one comes down to control and aggression. So I have Nasrat Hakparas winning by decision.
Yeah, we got Nasrat, who has a striking and jiu-jitsu background. He likes throwing for high volume with good power, and he has nice combinations. He either will apply forward pressure all fight, or he'll sit back and play the counter-attack game. Depends on who he's fighting. He is physical, has good movement. He struggles with guys who are quicker than him that can apply more volume. And he's been struggling lately, so he's been working on trying to improve himself on that side of things, because that's been what's done him in the past two fights, has been the volume and quick game. Then you got Makdessi, he has a background in Shotokan, karate, and Muay Thai. He is an aggressive striker who comes at you, throws a lot of volume, and then he likes to clinch up when need be. He needs to manage his gas tank at times, but he knows how to mix up the leg kicks and punching combinations very well. He's coming off a 16 fight month layoff, which is questionable for me. I got to see how he looks at weigh-ins and see before I can really dive into how he's going to be. But if I'm just going on paper, I feel like he's going to win by decision here. I feel like he's going to pour in a lot early. That's where it came to what you said. Yeah, Nasrat has to be more aggressive. He has to get in McDessie's face with his striking, because both these guys are very good with volume, but Nasrat has always struggled with the guys that go next level with
Yeah.
their volume game. And I feel like McDessie is a guy that can do that. It's just he's going to do a lot of it in the first 2 rounds, and then he tends to tire out round 3. So there's going to be those openings around 3 where I feel like Nasrat could finish McDessie by knockout or so. But I feel like the volume game is going to be in McDessie's favor. I think he's going to be the quicker guy, more aggressive. And I just feel like Nasrat's going to do, like I said, this is going to be a fight where he tries to sit back and counter. And I don't think that he can do that in this fight. I think he needs to get in McDessie's face. But for some reason, that's what he's done the past 2 fights. He's been more of a passive counterattacker than he usually is. And that's why I give the edge to McDessie by decision.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that you there. That's a chance. There's definitely a chance for that to happen.
Yep. Let's move on to the next fight on the main card. We got a men's middleweight matchup between Alessio Di Chirico versus Roman Kopylov. We got Manzo versus Kopylov. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, I think that this one's a make or break fight for both of these fighters, having losses, more losses in their last 5.
Yeah.
They match up well. They land about 5 strikes per minute. This one comes down to who will control the fight, just like the last one. When either of these two are outstruck, they normally lose their fights. So this one has
Right.
really been tough to pick because we don't know which versions of these fighters are going to show up. But I had to pick, so I think Alessio Di Chirico is going to be the more aggressive-based fighter coming out of his last few fights. This one feels like it's the last fight, which we talked about. It's all about control and aggression and who comes
Yeah.
out and pacing. So I'm going to go with Alessio Di Chirico by decision, but again, this one could be another split decision for me.
Yeah, you got Alessio, who has a striking and grappling background. He throws a lot of high leg kicks, body kicks, and calf kicks. He looks to fight from range and close the gap to clinch up and throw in the clinch or go for takedowns. He needs to watch out for power shots. He's been known to be knocked out when he leaves himself open, but he has good range and he has an underrated submission attack. And then you got Kopylov, who is a range fight striker with a background in kickboxing and BJJ. He has a good knockout power. He can defend takedowns with sprawls, and he has good movement. His foot movement is quick, and he knows how to go in and out of the range, but he struggled in the clinch if his opponents get to him first. And I feel like that's going to play a big factor in this one because I feel like Di Chirico is going to look to just stand there and throw those leg kicks and dictate the pace of the fight within range. But I feel like that's going to leave himself open at times, and that's what's happened. Like he's had fights where he's got knocked out. If you look right here, in some of his last fights, he got knocked out by Alsan like that. But then that's how he beat Buckley was the head kick,
Yeah.
and then he lost to Cummins, Moradov, and Holland. It's all about like the what way he goes. And Kopylov went and lost to Duraev and Roberson. Like it's been guys that are grappling that have gotten Roman Kopylov in. This guy has good power, and then he tends to knock people out or stun them, and then he grapples to try and ground and pound them, and usually wins by decision with it. And that's why it's kind of weird because he has that kickboxing style, but then you see more diverse use of it than him just staying there and fighting from a distance. If both these guys do kickboxing style, it's going to be a boring fight, and it might be one where it goes to split decision. But I feel like Kopylov is going to look to get inside and get in the clinch on him, and that's why I think he has the edge here, and that's why I'm going with Roman Kopylov by decision.
All right. Gets his first UFC victory.
Yeah, I feel like he has a chance to knock out Alessio, but I feel like he does enough just within the clinch to where
All
he
right.
doesn't get that chance to finish him, but he does enough on the scorecards, volume wise and grappling wise, to edge him out.
All right.
Let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. We got a men's middleweight matchup between Robert Whitaker versus Marvin Vettori. We got the Reaper versus the Italian Dream. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
I love this matchup, and even though both of these guys are top 5 contenders, this was an easier fight for me to pick. And I may be
Yeah,
biased, but I'm going with Whitaker. He's been one of my favorite fighters for years since his debut, honestly. Despite my favoritism for Robert Whitaker, I think his takedown defense is some of the best in the division. He's only struggled against Yoel Romero, who is a freak.
yeah,
I think Yoel took him down 7 times within 2 fights, and
yeah.
Yoel takes everybody down. I don't think Marvin is Yoel Romero. So Robert's takedown defense is going to negate Marvin's greatest strength, which is his wrestling, and play into Robert's greatest strength, which is his striking. So I have Whitaker walking away with a decision win.
One of the best things that has happened to Whitaker has been Jacob Malkoon being his training partner. That's kind of helped him harness his grappling and just like you said, his takedown defense.
Yep.
And he's been a different fighter since having him by his side. Because his just like you said, his boxing is very quick. He has a very good combination. He has good movement. He likes to move his head, so he avoids a lot of shots. He gave Adesanya a lot in the second fight. The first fight he came in kind of like being kind of lackadaisic and he got caught, but then he made corrections and he did better in the second fight. It's just that with Adesanya knows how to just move, and avoid, and then he fights that boring style at times. And Whitaker was still able to apply pressure and make a fight out of it. But other than that, like he's just made work of the division minus Adesanya with just the striking and just the cardio. He has great cardio, and he's been able to actually use grappling to his advantage and
Yep.
grappling guys up along the fence. He attacks the body and the head, and he's been using a lot more leg kicks lately as well. Then you got Marvin Vettori, who has that big time wrestling background. He looks to shoot at you, take you down with the double, single leg takedowns, and ground and pound on you. But he also has knockout power, and he's been showcasing a lot of that striking lately. That fight against Paulo Costa, he landed over 150 strikes in that fight, and he didn't look like he was tiring out at all. He went all 5 rounds, and he probably could have went more. Like that's a testament to how he builds his cardio, and that's what's going to make this matchup really good for 3 rounds. I'm going to give the edge to Whitaker because I feel like his volume and his striking is going to be better,
Yeah.
and he's going to be able to avoid the takedowns of Vettori. And then there's been talks about him moving to 205. So I feel like he's going to put on more muscle. And I'd be intrigued to see if he wins this, if he does make that move, because he's kind of going to be at a standstill at middleweight with him already
Right.
losing twice to Adesanya.
Yeah. You know what? Both of these guys would benefit from going up to 205. Marvin's one of the heaviest
Yeah.
185 guys, so it would be a benefit for both of those guys to jump up. That division has a lot of killers, but they have a lot of older
Yeah.
fighters too. So if these guys jump in there, right for the taking.
Yep. Let's move on to the main event of the evening. We got a men's heavyweight matchup between Ciryl Gane going up against Tui Tuivasa. We got Ban Haman versus Bam Bam. Jim, what are your thoughts on this main event? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, man, this is a great matchup, and in my mind, #1 contendership fight right here.
Yes.
I don't care about John Jones, Stipe Miocic. I don't. They've been gone for too long. These guys have been staying active. Ciryl is coming in the heavy favorite, and rightfully so. He has an 8-inch reach advantage. He's faster. He's more conditioned, and he's more technical. But
Yeah.
I'm going with Tai Tuivasa in this one.
Oh,
I am. Again, he's one of my favorite fighters. I've been a fan of him since Mark Hunt was talking about him before his debut. Um, and the thing about Tai Tuivasa is since coming back for his second stint in the UFC,
yes.
he's went from a guy who's getting into Instagram
With the
fights with
beard.
Chris. Yeah, but he was getting into fights on Instagram with Chris Barnett. to becoming a more focused fighter. Like he tried to be like the Darren Till, where everything was
Yeah.
like a gif or like a meme of the fighters in his division. His cardio's gotten better. He's been using the leg kicks more frequently and landing them with more success. And I think a lot of that goes to Tyson Pedro being healthier and able to
Yes.
train with him more often because Tyson uses leg kicks as well. And meanwhile, his power's gotten stronger. Hasn't lost in 2 years and has finished all of his last 5 fights. His only wins are knockouts, and his only way to win is to knock him out, which is something that Gane has avoided. But I think fighting in the southpaw stance is going to change Gane's approach and defense a little bit, and it's going to give him leave his chin open just a little bit for a second round knockout. I have Tai Tuivasa shocking the world, winning the fight, doing a shoey in Paris, and it's game over.
Yeah, this was tough for me because you got two top fighters that are, even though Gane lost his title fight against Ngannou, but he still looked good in that matchup
Looked great.
up until the point where he got taken down. You got Gane, who has probably the best cardio and quickness of the heavyweight division. We've said it before. He moves like a lightweight
Yeah.
there. He has that kickboxing style, and he has a little bit of a Muay Thai style, but he likes to fight from a distance, use those leg kicks, and he likes to get in and out with his striking. He doesn't want to keep himself in range enough time for opponent to hit him, and that's why he's had a lot of early success in the UFC before that
Yep.
fight, and that's why he climbed the ladder so fast. It's because the volume game and just out volume his opponent in and out, and it's kind of just stymied them. But then there's been kind of a blueprint against him now, which is the takedown defense. We haven't
Yep.
seen anybody try and take him down until Ngannou did, and he kind of had trouble with the takedown defense and then getting back up, and that's how he lost the fight to Ngannou because he was winning the exchanges on the feet. Then you got Tai Tuivasa, just like you said. Ever since he came back, he's incorporated those leg kicks in to give his opponent more to think about. He's had better movement. He has better knockout power. And then his chin has been a lot better too. He
Yep.
took a lot of damage from Lewis and he just shrugged it off and threw it back at him. And I liked seeing the fact that he was throwing the elbow in the clinch. That's something new that he's added. And he's been a better overall fighter. His IQ has improved a lot. He's put the work in. He's
Yep.
focused more on just being himself than trying to be famous. He's just drinking a lot. He practices a lot. He trains a lot for fights, and that's why he's in the position that he is now. The fight's going to go either two ways. Taito Ivasa is going to win by knockout, or Ciryl Gane's going to win by decision.
Right.
And I'm going to go with Gane by decision. And it hates me to say it because Taito Ivasa is one of my favorite fighters. He's in my intro for a reason.
Yeah.
But I feel like Gane's going to avoid that knockout shot. Yeah, just like I said, the only weakness that he's shown has been the takedowns. And I
Yeah.
don't see Tuivasa taking him down at all this fight. He's going
Not
to look
one
to
bit.
stand up and no. This is just going to remind me of the Derek Lewis fight, but I feel like Tuivasa's not going to give up. He's going to look all fight and he's going to look to try and get that one knockout shot. He might come close, but I just feel like Gane's striking defense is on another level, and
Yeah.
he's going to easily be able to outstrike him. So I got Ciryl Gane by decision.
That's the safest bet. He's like an
Yeah,
800 plus 800 favorite. Like this is the Leon Edwards Kamaru Usman fight, where there's the short pick. I'm going with I'm gonna ride with
I don't even
Tuivasa.
think that was I didn't even think that was a short pick. I thought Usman was going to win, but I thought Edwards had a good shot of winning with
I
the
know we
skills.
both
Yeah,
we
yeah,
both said it, man. We said
yeah,
that if anybody's to beat him, it's gonna be Leon Edwards, and that's not patting
yeah,
ourselves on the back because we both went with
yeah,
Kamaru Usman in that one. But
yeah.
I should have thrown a few bills down on Leon Edwards, man, because the payout would have been great. But I am gonna put a couple dollars on Tai Tuivasa. I'll
Yeah,
just
with the odds, it's great. Like there's always that chance. It's just that, but like just the movement in and out for Gane has been just next level, and
Yeah.
You got to knock him out to beat him in this matchup because this is going to be 5 rounds.
Yep.
We've only seen Tuivasa go like 2-3 rounds,
Right.
and we haven't seen him go like a full 5 at all. And we've seen Gane go 5 rounds, I think 3 or 4 times already in his 7-fight UFC career. So, which
Right.
is
Right.
crazy to think that in his UFC career he has more main event 5-round fights than he does 3-round fights.
Yeah, for sure. I would be super impressed if Tuivasa just shot for a takedown and locked in a Kimura.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's in there with him, just like you said, training with Tyson Pedro, who has that grappling background. So he might
For
try
sure.
and throw things in there to kind of make Gane think more. And when he does that, that allows him those chances to go for a good knockout.
Yeah, and Tuivasa's been switching up, going to Dubai too to work out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there. This is a great fight, great heavyweight matchup. I like either win against the champion.
Yep. But other than that, that'll wrap things up with today's UFC Paris 4-card prediction show with me and my co-host Jim. We will be back next week to preview the UFC pay-per-view next week, which is headlined by, of course, Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz
Can't
in a
wait.
5-round fight. And it's going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada. But before we get going, as always, this is Cage My IQ. Follow and subscribe to us on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button on this video and leave us a comment in the comment section to let us know what your thoughts and opinions are on this fight night card in Paris. I want to hear your underdogs, your big time bets, what you're going to be betting this week, and just let me know all the details that you have for this fight card. And of course, check us out with all of our other videos on the network for wrestling and interviews that we have. Just like I said, I got Bubba Jenkins and also got Aaron Jeffrey coming out interview wise, and then I got the wrestling pay per view prediction shows that we have coming later this week. So check all this out, and then if you want to donate to the podcast, we have a Cash App, $ DanielBakley. Any donation that you wish to send will be supported, but you don't have to if you don't want to. We love all the support from everybody on the network. But we will be back next week with another edition of Cage My IQ. As always, I'm your host, Cage. This is my co host, Jim. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.